Sasha Banks walking out of Monday Night Raw on May 16, 2022 was a shock to every WWE fan, but nobody expected it to be the end of her run altogether. It all happened because of creative frustration, and the walkout turned out to be the straw that broke the camel's back. There's a long history of superstars walking out of WWE due to differences, mainly creative, but it usually involves a lot of their frustration as well. As you're going to see, Sasha Banks is far from the only superstar to walk out of WWE. The first and most obvious follow-up to Sasha Banks is Naomi. The duo were the women's tag team champions, but they were also a lot more vocal to the higher-ups about how badly they handled the women's division. The anger didn't come out of nowhere, especially when they heard the underwhelming plans the WWE had for them in the coming months. The disagreement turned into a walkout and protest, with both women never wrestling for WWE again. Although both Banks and Naomi were reported to have been in positive talks with the company, that fell through, and Sasha Banks jumped ship to New Japan Pro Wrestling, while Naomi has found a new home in Impact Wrestling. Finding another home is important, as Lex Luger made sure he had a backup plan before jumping ship to WCW. By 1995, he was already a well-established name, but never quite broke into the uppermost tier in WWE. By that time, he had enough and told Sting about his desire to leave WWE, leading to the Icon putting in a word to WCW Senior Vice President Eric Bischoff. Bischoff actually had no intention of signing him and gave him a lowball offer of $150,000, knowing in his mind it would be turned down. Now, $150,000 a year was a lot in 1995, but it's nothing compared to what WCW's top stars were being paid. To Bischoff's surprise, Luger agreed to the deal and quietly walked out of WWE after a house show before debuting on the first episode of Nitro one night later and shocking the world. Stone Cold Steve Austin certainly shocked the world when he walked out of WWE in 2002. It was a long time coming, and you have to go back to even before WrestleMania 18. Not many know this, but Stone Cold vs. Hulk Hogan was the original planned match, and not Hogan vs. The Rock. Hogan claims that Austin had some heat with him because the returning NWO was being cheered instead. He said, quote, "They were complaining. Those guys are turning us upside down, and we're getting booed instead of cheered. So there was some legitimate heat there, on a business level," end quote. Austin didn't seem too happy about the eventual match that he had against Scott Hall and walked out a night later on the Raw after WrestleMania 18. But it was an incident involving Brock Lesnar that was the final straw. WWE told Austin that he was going to lose to Brock Lesnar at the King of the Ring tournament, infuriating the Texas Rattlesnake and causing him to walk out. While it may seem unreasonable, Austin later said that he didn't have an issue putting over the young Brock Lesnar, but didn't want to do it without a proper story and build-up. It seemed like he was done with WWE for good, but he eventually returned and retired at WrestleMania 19. He later called it the biggest regret of his career, but he would come back one more time for a great match with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38. Now, there were no regrets for Neville when he walked out of Raw on October 9th, 2017. Neville didn't have the greatest WWE career, but he single-handedly brought in a renaissance to the otherwise stagnant cruiserweight division. It wasn't the same kind of renaissance that Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio brought to WCW's cruiserweight division, but it was still a huge step forward. It was also a no-brainer to make Neville the face of the division, as his new heel character tore through everybody on his path. It was all going well until WWE decided to flip the switch and turn Enzo Amore into the new face of the cruiserweight division. Now, we're not going to sit and trash Enzo Amore's time in the division, especially because he brought something that was severely lacking before, a charismatic character. But it all came at the expense of Neville, who took one look at the creative plans laid out for him before walking out. Although WWE denied him leaving the company, he finally exited in the summer of 2018, going on to have a great run in AEW. A great run was exactly what Macho Man Randy Savage was hoping for when he jumped ship to WCW in 1994. Although he was already a legend by then, this was problematic for Vince McMahon, who felt that his days as an in-ring competitor were over. He then put Macho Man on color commentary, and Macho Man was not happy about this at all. He didn't care about Vince McMahon's vision to build the future around younger stars, and it lit a fire underneath him. According to Eric Bischoff, Randy Savage walking out of WWE had more to do with him proving a point to Vince McMahon. He said, quote, "For anybody who really knew Randy Savage, that lit a fire under him like none other, and all he wanted to do when he got to WCW was contribute and work. He was so not concerned with politics or creative, he just wanted to bust his balls and prove a point not just to me or to WCW or to Turner, but I think he wanted to prove a point to Vince McMahon." End quote. Given that he went on to win 4 more world championships, it didn't work out too bad for the Macho Man. The same can't be said for CM Punk, who possibly had one of the most open and talked about walkouts in WWE history. By early 2014, CM Punk was an unhappy man. He was frustrated about the fact that he was always passed over in the WrestleMania main event year after year, unhappy with not becoming the company's top star, unhappy with the piling health issues, and burned out from years on the road. We aren't trying to paint the picture of CM Punk being a bitter man, but even if he was, it's hard to blame him. He had hoped that by giving a great performance in the 2014 Royal Rumble, he would force WWE to put him in the main event of WrestleMania 30. That didn't happen, and when he was chokeslammed through the announcer's table, he had had enough, leading to a heated confrontation with Vince McMahon. McMahon couldn't understand why Punk was so upset, and it would be the end of his wrestling career for over 7 years. The culmination of Punk's frustration and his deteriorating physical and mental health forced him to walk out and reevaluate his life. The fact that CM Punk was served his release letter on his wedding day drove an even bigger wedge between him and WWE. Unfortunately, his AEW run also came to a bitter halt when he had a backstage altercation with the Elite. As of now, nobody knows whether he will come back or not. Which other superstars walked out of WWE after major disagreements? Let us know who you think should have been included in this list in that comment section below.